President Buhari congratulates Bayelsa, Kogi governors-elect David Leon, Yaya Bello as PDP accuses security agents of aiding ballot box snatchers. Power generation companies threaten power shutdown over 600 billion naira intervention fund. In international news, Hong Kong violent protest continues unabated as students at a university are holed in on campus. And in sport, Mohammed Quadri emerged champions at the second leg of the Nigeria Tennis Federation Junior Championships.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. President Muhammadu Buhari has congratulated Bayelsa and Kogi State's governors-elect on their victory at the November 16 governorship election. The Independent National Electoral Commission has declared Bayelsa's APC David Leon winner early on Monday. Returning officer Friday Oruwese, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Benin, announced Leon polled 352,552 votes to defeat Doye Diri of the People's Democratic Party, who got 143,172 votes. The total number of registered voters was 922,562, and the number of accredited voters was 517,883. Leon won in 6 of the 8 local government areas in the state. President Buhari congratulated Governor Yaya Bello on his re-election as governor of Kogi State. Buhari advised Bello to see his renewed mandate as another opportunity to build on the foundations already laid towards improving the lives of the people of Kogi State. Returning officer for the election and Vice-Chancellor of Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, Professor Ibrahim Umar, made the declaration at the INEC office in Lokoja, the Kogi State capital. The APC candidate received 406,222 votes to top his closest rival, Musa Wada of the People's Democratic Party, who scored 189,704 votes. On her part, the candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Natasha Akwoti, garnered a total of 9,482 votes. The People's Democratic Party has reacted to the conduct and outcome of the governorship elections in Bayelsa and Kogi State. In a statement, its National Publicity Secretary, Konla Ologbodiyan, accused APC governments in the 2 states of trampling on democracy and likened them to Hitler's Germany and Samodo's Liberia, where it said lives and rights of citizens meant nothing to suppressive power mongers. The party says it would accept the provocative altercation of results from polling units as well as allocation of fictitious votes, particularly the awarding of 112,000 votes to APC in Okene. The party says the APC administration has destroyed the hope Nigeria had in democratic practice. PDP also accused security forces of aiding armed hoodlums to invade polling centers, shoot and kill innocent citizens, cut away ballot boxes and stuff them with already thumb-printed ballot papers in APC's favor. The Independent National Electoral Commission has declared as inconclusive the rerun election in Kogi West Senatorial District because the margin of victory was less than the total cancelled votes. INEC is set to announce the date for supplementary election to Kogi West Senatorial District rerun. Senator Smart Adeyemi of the All Progressives Congress APC has 80,118, while Senator Dino Melaye of the People's Democratic Party polled 59,548 votes. Returning officer Professor Olaide Lawal explained that the total margin between both candidates was lower than the 43,127 registered voters in 53 polling units of 20 registration areas in the zone where elections were cancelled. Away from election matters, electricity generation companies GENCO say the entire country may soon experience a nationwide blackout if the federal government does not disburse the 600 billion naira intervention fund. The GENCOs are reacting to the reports by the African Development Bank and Economic Community of West African State Regional Electricity Regulatory Authority, which disclosed that Nigeria and Guinea-Conakry currently have the cheapest or lowest retail electricity tariffs in the West African region. The Gencos say they had been indebted to the extent that their gas suppliers no longer supplied them. They say this has caused 3 Gencos to shut down. Executive Secretary, Association of Power Generation Companies, Dr. Joy Ogaji, says if the 600 billion naira is not released in record time, a deliberate decision or economic factors would force the remaining Gencos to stop power generation. Ogaji says the Gencos have been receiving only 15% payment on their invoices since June. It says they need at least 20 to 30% of their invoices to sustain their operations. The Joint National Assembly Committee on Finance is holding a public hearing on the controversial Finance Bill, which seeks to amend 7 acts of the nation's parliament. Finance experts, civil society groups, and some federal lawmakers had openly condemned the bill. They say it would lead to an increase in value-added tax, company income tax, and other taxes. Chairman, Senate Committee on Finance, Senator Solomon Adiola, says the bill is not only about increasing VAT, but it composites legislation seeking amendments of 7 acts of the National Assembly with removal of taxes for some sectors in the economy. Adiola said the forum would enable stakeholders to bear their minds on the proposed legislation. The senator says the bill would also remove some conflicting and confusing aspects of the laws that had given rise to legal disputes in the past, leading to huge losses of revenue for the government. A Federal University of Technology, Akure, has suspended 6 students of the institution who were involved in severely beating a female undergraduate in a video that circulated on social media. In the viral video, 3 of the students were seen slapping and whipping the victim, who was begging them to leave her alone. The university declared that it would not tolerate indiscipline or any act that contravened its rules and regulations. It also vowed that the errant students would not go unpunished. Coming up, African news. South African aviation unions threaten to shut down country's entire aviation industry. And later, international news. Hong Kong violence protests continue unabated as students at a besieged university barricade themselves on campus.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to news events across the continent. South Africa's striking airport workers union had threatened to shut down the country's entire aviation industry by extending industrial action beyond state-run South African Airways. The unions began a strike on Friday. Flights were cancelled and passengers were reported stranded at the main airport. The union's demands include an 8% wage increase and for outsourced services to be brought back in-house. They are also objecting to SAA's plans to cut more than 900 jobs. They say workers are tired of taking the heat for years of management failures. SAA says the crippling strike action is costing more than $3 million a day and jeopardizing talks with lenders around much-needed funding it needs for survival. If the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, which called the strike alongside the South African Cabin Crew Association, make good on their shutdown plans. SAA subsidiaries like Mango Airlines, other organizations like the Civil Aviation Authority and Airport Company, and other airlines in South Africa will be affected. Sudan may soon be removed from the U.S. list of state sponsors of terrorism. A U.S. State Department official said on Friday America no longer has an adversarial relationship with the Sudanese government. The official said the U.S. is working on the possibility of removing the country from that list. State Department Assistant Secretary for African Affairs, Tibonage, warned the process carries conditions. He said there is continuing engagement with Sudanese counterparts on the way forward. He also said the U.S. is not committing to lifting sanctions against the Sudan, but he said there were conditions attached to achieving such an event. Sudan was added to the U.S. list in 1993 over allegations that then-President Omar al-Bashir's Islamic government supported terrorist groups. Bashir was stopped by the military in April. Zimbabwe's Finance Minister Mthulu Ncube says the country plans to cut value-added tax from January to stimulate consumer demand in an economy set to contract this year after power shortages and a drought. While presenting the 2020 budget to Parliament late last week, Ncube proposed reducing the VAT rate by half a percentage point from 15% from January next year. He also proposed lowering the corporate income tax rate by 1% from 25%. But Zimbabweans are not excited about Nkube's figures. Reporter Faraya Nwakutuya has the details.
Finance Minister Mthulu Ncube believes Zimbabwe's economy will rebound in 2020. However, some feel his ambitious projections are short on detail.
Currently, we're talking of capacity utilization levels in industries well below 50%, simply because of the electricity challenge. So really, those are the factors that I was expecting to see from the budget to say, how are we going to address this electricity supply gap? How are we going to deal with debts around ESCOM?
Despite calling it a people's budget, Professor Mthulu Ncube's pronouncement did little to address the very real and pressing challenges Zimbabweans face day to day, chief amongst which is trying to access cash. The issuance of $30 million in new currency hasn't satisfied demand.
They promised us that there will be plenty of cash in the bank, but we still haven't seen it. I have been all day and I'm still waiting. I'm about to collapse from hunger.
She will only cheer the budget if it reins in spiraling inflation, she says.
The money I want to withdraw can only buy one or two things because everything is now expensive. I want the government to do something to make things affordable again.
Scrapping of subsidies on maize and wheat could mean higher prices though. Raising of tax-free thresholds should put a little more money in people's pockets, while jobs are to be created through incentives for businesses to employ youths.
It's probably a step in the right direction, especially when then you consider the social effects of having unemployment rate at 95%. There are also socio-economic risks at the same time. Youth are not employed, they're not active, and that's probably a first step to say, let's come up with this venture capital fund.
The budget deficit is projected at 1.5% of GDP on the back of government cost containment.
The second African Ranger Awards ceremony was held in Accra, Ghana. 10 out of 150 rangers on the continent were rewarded for their dedication and commitments to fight poaching and illegal wildlife trade. The awards are sponsored by the Alibaba Foundation in collaboration with the Paradise International Foundation. Penina Karibe was there and brings us the following report.
It was a ceremony to honor selflessness and celebrate the great efforts being made on a daily basis to protect Africa's wildlife. This was the second session of the African Ranger Awards, a ceremony set up to recognize and support the achievements and efforts of African rangers to combat poaching, habitat loss and illegal wildlife trade. The African Rangers Awards were established back in July 2017 by the founder of Alibaba Group and board member of the Paradise International Foundation, Jack Ma.
For a picture, please.
The award seeks to identify 500 dedicated rangers over the course of 10 years and will provide grants totaling $1.5 million. For the rangers, the job is a daily sacrifice, a choice between life and death. A survey in 2016 showed that in Africa, 82% of the rangers have faced mortal danger on the job, and over 60% of the rangers were attacked directly by poachers.
So this year, we just launched Africa Ranger Family Support Plan to support your families. We hope that all the heroes, you're bleeding, but we don't want your family also crying because of the poverty and no jobs.
That will go a long way in supporting the families of Africa's rangers, some of whom spent many of their years away from their loved ones. Africa is the world's richest continent in terms of wildlife, yet this treasure is getting depleted every year. At present, the population of the African elephant is declining at a rate of 30,000 per year. Gorillas and rhinos too are on the verge of extinction, and forums such as this one are providing an opportunity to preserve this precious heritage.
China has a population of 1.4 billion and is the world's second largest economy. If China and the Chinese people want to do something, if China and the Chinese people devote to some causes, that one will surely achieve success.
It may be a long while before this war is won, but these are necessary efforts towards that victory.
When we return, international news. Hong Kong violent protests continue unabated as students at a besieged university barricade themselves on campus. And later, sport. Mohammed Quadri win NTF Junior Championships. Welcome back. This is CNN News. On the foreign scene, violent protests in Hong Kong continued unabated over the weekend. Hundreds of student protesters remained locked in a tense standoff with police at a university where demonstrators had barricaded themselves since last week. The students and police engaged in intense but sporadic clashes for more than a day now. Police have tried to break through barricades erected by protesters, but they were driven back by Molotov cocktails and other makeshift weapons. Early on Monday, dozens of students had attempted to flee the besieged campus on foot but were met by police tear gas. Thousands of riots and other police have surrounded the urban campus of Hong Kong Polytechnic University for a day now. They have warned students to drop their weapons, but a hardcore group showed no sign of surrender. Police authorities warned the university campus had become a power keg. They said danger there is far beyond what they could estimate. In the midst of the melee, a group of Hong Kong residents was voluntarily picking up bricks and debris left by rioters near the University of Hong Kong over the weekend. When some masked rioters disrupted their activities and threw firebombs at them, but the locals stood up against black-clad rioters and drove them away.
Protester rallies carry on across multiple districts in Hong Kong. Riders throw bricks, set up barriers, and disrupt traffic. Metro stations are closed, telephone booths smashed, and traffic lights vandalized. But it's not all bad. Some selfless volunteers routinely gather ahead of the morning rush hour to clear roadblocks and allow cars and buses to drive through.
I asked many friends, they are everywhere in the city this morning, to help clear the roads. Many Hong Kong residents are heartbroken when they see the roads blocked and car tires punctured by sharp objects. It just looks like a disaster.
Media outlets report several cases in the city of volunteers being attacked by protesters.
The rioters should examine their consciences. I hope they won't attack those involved in clearing the roadblocks. Everyone needs a peaceful living environment. If you can't keep to that bottom line, how can you talk about politics? I'm just a normal resident. I don't know about politics. I'm just speaking from my heart.
The volunteers say they will stay committed to their work.
The city of Romance, Venice, Italy has been experiencing severe flooding for more than a week, and weather experts say this could be a sign of more devastation to come. Rising sea levels are threatening the future of the Italian canal city. Venice City Mayor Lugo Brugnaro has blamed the disaster on climate change and is urging Rome to face up to the increasing risk of more dangerous weather events. Daniel Robertson reports.
Flood alarm echoes through the streets, a warning not only for Venice, but for the globe. As the waters rise, so does the anger.
It's incredible. So the other night, the water is 1 meter 87 centimeter level of the sea. It's a disaster.
We are not prepared for this. We were not prepared. We had a lot of pretty much damages about this. So for sure there's the technology to do something about it. And we need to be organizing that.
A plan for underwater barriers here has fueled debate. The project, known as Mosaic, is intended to prevent inundation like this. But it's been delayed and plagued by corruption. The government now says it will accelerate plans to construct these barriers, but for some, it's too late. Many furious that plans to defend this fragile city from flooding have been ongoing since 1966. Scientists say the seas are rising. That happens in Venice every year, but this is different.
So the consequence is that the frequency, the recurrence of such events of the last years could be more frequent in the future. We are planning a general strategy to contrast, to mitigate the effect of climate change.
The sounds from this small outpost echoing a powerful message. What will be left for the next generation? And there's also the cultural cost of the disaster. The 20 million euros pledged to help with the cleanup won't fix priceless mosaics drowned in sewage. While the waters will eventually fall, the fight isn't over yet, and there are fears that Venice could one day eventually disappear altogether.
This year's World Day of the Poor was marked on Sunday, and Pope Francis hosted 1,500 poor and needy persons for lunch at the Vatican after celebrating Mass in St. Peter's Basilica, during which raised awareness about the poor in the world. During the service, Pope Francis said the poor, quote, facilitate our access to heaven, end quote. He also described them as the treasure of the Church. The Pope encouraged the faithful not to feel annoyed when the poor knock on their doors. He said they should welcome them and help them as much as possible. The Pontiff said we are always in a hurry, never worrying that the gap is increasing between the rich and the poor. He said the greed of a few is adding to the poverty of many others. The world's Catholic leader, who chose the name Francis after the saint of the poor, has focused his attention on the world's marginalized since he became Pope.
Up next, sports. Mohammed Quadri win NTF Junior Championships. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. This is ANN News in Sport. Musa Mohammed and Oyinlomo Quadri have won the boys and girls title at the second leg of the Nigeria Tennis Federation International Junior Championships in Abuja on Sunday. Mohammed defeated Ayobami Phillips in 3 sets, while Quadri needed 2 straight sets to defeat the winner of the first leg of the tournament, Marylove Edwards. Mohammed partnered with Ghana's Desmond Ayaba to win the boys' doubles, while Quadri and Edwards paired to win the girls' doubles. Nigerians applauded Victor Osimhen's goals by Alex Iwobi and Samuel Chukwueze for helping their team defeat Lesotho 4-2 in their 2021 Africa Cup of Nations Group qualifier in Maseru. In the second half, Osimhen slid full length to score Nigeria's third from a cross by defender Olaino in the 74th minute. With Sunday's victory, Nigeria have hauled 6 points and 6 goals from their 2 qualifiers to top Group L. Her matches against Lesotho and Sierra Leone will be completed in the final phase of the qualifying series next year. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV.